Okay. I'm going to start off with a bit of a different kind of question, kind of personal question. Do you consider yourself an asset or a liability? Yeah, how do you feel about that with yourself? A little bit uncomfortable there? Are you an asset or a liability? Yeah, or where are you on that spectrum between someone who's an asset to society and the world, the planet, or a liability? Because really, when we're born, at that time when we're born, we're entirely a liability. Entirely. Yes, we're just there to take from the moment we're born. Just latched right on there to mama's breast and just a big sack hole for quite some time, just taking from mama, taking her nourishment. And it continues for quite some time. The parents they're just dumping more stuff into your mouth, more stuff into your pockets, more stuff into your Christmas stocking. They're paying for clothes, they're paying for your education. Yeah, or maybe the government's paying for your education or scholarships or something. People are investing into you as a liability, hoping that somehow you might come through. You might find it within yourself to become an asset to society and to contribute back to the family, society, and the planet. But what does that take? What does that take? We're really talking about the journey of maturation. Journey of maturation. To go from something that's immature to something that is mature and bearing fruit. And so within the context of tonight's talk, we're going to be looking at the chakras. The maturation of the chakras that really empowers you from being something that is a liability into something that can bear fruit. And this journey of maturation isn't something that should be considered to happen of its own accord, to be taken for granted. It's something that has to be worked at, cultivated, encouraged along. As we will see this evening, so do the chakras. Yes, what are the chakras? Well, some people look at the word chakra as being derived from the word chariot. Chariot wheels. That they actually are wheels, as on a chariot. A spinning wheel that is an energy center. A spinning energy center that contains information, coded information, and is able to organize information in a center that can be received, assimilated, and transmitted. So they're kind of like discs, satellite discs, you could say. But tonight I'm going to follow more the line of reference that they're like, or not like, but they are lotus blossoms. They are flowers. Flowers that are within the subtle bodies. In the Sanskrit word kosha. Kosha means subtle bodies, and we have several subtle bodies. And that these flowers are growing within the soil of our subtle bodies, the koshas. And that we have 7 main chakras on the central column that runs parallel to the spine. And we have one that's at the root, and then we have one at the sacral area, one that's in the navel or solar plexus area. We have one up in the heart and lung area. We have one in the throat area, one up in the brow area, and one at the crown area. And in fact, even though that they're in the subtle body or the kosha, they are connected to physical organs in the body. So with the one at the root, it's connected to the prostate gland or the cervix. The second one, the sacral or the sexual chakra, connected to the ovaries or the testes. The third one in the solar plexus area to the adrenals. Up in the heart, it's to the heart and to the thymus gland. In the throat area, the larynx area, connected to the thyroid. The one in the brow to the pituitary gland, and the one at the crown, the pineal gland. So you might have guessed they're connected most closely to the endocrine system in the physical body. And you might get also the sense that it is really plant-like in the way they are on this column. Kind of like the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, right? This is kind of like a beanstalk that we have running through our body on the subtle layer. And that it runs from something that's like a root to a bloom. So you have really like the tendrils of the lower chakra connecting us to the earth, and then we have the actual root within the sexual organs, and then in this power center of the solar plexus is the beginning of the stalk, where a stalk is something that is a conduit of power, of the nourishment of the sap. And then the heart and lungs are very much like leaves. The lungs and heart function like leaves and have this leaf-like quality. And then up in the larynx is like the calyx of a plant. And then up in the head, it's like the pistil and the stamen. And then the crown chakra is like the bloom. So we're going from root to bloom. So there's something very organic and plant-like and living about the chakra system. So some of you, this may be a new subject, and you might be wondering, why have I never experienced my chakras if they're in me and they've been there from the beginning? And well, I would suggest you probably have experienced them. For example, at the root chakra, which is connected to our sense of survival and rootedness and homeness, you may at some time have felt a tingling when you were feeling fear, a tingling around the area of the perineum, the anus, maybe even a sense of needing to go to the washroom when something is causing fear within you. But it's that tingling, that coldness, that is actually the chakra that's responding to your emotional state. Or perhaps at times you felt very contented, you felt very grounded and rooted, and kind of a warmth down there. It's like, oh yeah, I feel very settled, I feel very connected to the earth and safe. That is an experience of your root chakra. The second chakra, at times you may have felt a stirring there. A stirring that's more than just some biochemical stirring, but something that's connected to the state of mind. If you were having some sort of sexual fantasy and you felt a stirring, a warming in that area, that would be an opening of the lotus blossom of the sexual chakra. The third chakra, in this area of the belly, around the navel, a sense of butterflies in your stomach when you're feeling nervous. Again, it's connected to the emotional state, the state of consciousness, not just a physical thing, but the state of consciousness produces this sense of butterflies in the stomach. Or maybe you've at times had a gut feeling that's there, something, an intimation, an intuition. They sometimes call this area the second brain. And indeed, it's connected to the psychic capacity of this third chakra. And of course, the heart chakra. We've all at times felt in love. Remember that first blush of love when you just, like, in your mind you're like seeing each other together and possibly getting married, and you're already naming the children, and your heart is wide open and you feel just this gushing. Well, of course that's not your physical heart. it's the heart chakra that's opening up. Or conversely, maybe a sense of heartbreak, where the heart feels closed down and nothing can open it. It's like a stone. The flower, the lotus blossom of the heart chakra has closed up. And then the throat chakra. People say, oh, your heart is in your throat. You feel like you're choked up. Or there's something caught there and you can't speak. Or conversely, you can't stop speaking. It's open up and you just feel like the world is alive with the sound of music. You just see Julie Andrews, in your head, and you're up there on top of some mountain in Switzerland. Throat chakra's just gone wild. Then the brow chakra, which is sometimes referred to as the third eye chakra, and connected to the pineal and the pituitary gland, which the pineal gland actually has cell tissues and aspects of it that makes it similar to an eye, a retina. But those moments sometimes when you're falling asleep at night and you see this flash of light and you like open your eyes as if somebody turned the light on in the room. Anybody had that experience? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, or colors, or patterns. That's the third eye chakra relaxing and opening up and allowing you connection to aspects beyond the physical. Or even when meditating, you may feel tingling or densifying in that part of the head. And then the crown chakra, the balloon chakra. You may feel a blooming at times. You may feel a ring, an opening. The halo. You may have your halo on. Those times when you really feel like you're connected and you're open to the divine and you're feeling like really good about yourself. You're feeling, yeah, you're in good sacred space in this opening of the crown chakra. You've seen those paintings of Jesus and other saints with this ring around the head. It's for real. So that's looking at the chakra stock. These 7 main chakras and really how plant-like they are in our subtle bodies, the koshas. And just to make it a little aside here, we really have a strong correlation to plantness in our being. Rudolf Steiner makes the interesting comment that we are upside down plants physically. Spiritually we're upright, but physically we're upside down plants because physically this is really the seed. The head is like a seed or a bulb planted into the earth. And our senses in the head are really connected to the things of the earth, the physical realm. So we really should be the other way around with our head down here as the seed, because we grow out of our heads. When a baby's born, they've got this big head and this little waggly body like this, and we grow out of the seed of our head and we grow down onto the earth, and the child eventually connects with the earth and pushes itself into this uprightness. But yeah, so there's the seed here, and then in the middle realm, this is really the trunk. And again, the heart and the lungs are like the leaves that breathe and connect with the air and provide nourishment to all the systems. And then, what do we call these? Our limbs. We got limbs. So limbs normally shoot up. They shoot up into the sky. They shoot up into the future. And indeed, we create the future out of our limbs. The deeds that we do create the seeds of the future. Whereas the head is really much more connected to the past. So it's interesting, yeah, we're upside down plants physically, and there again we are sucking from the earth through our senses, initially as a liability, just taking in, and hopefully through our limbs, through our will, and through our deeds, we start to contribute back to society. So all this talk about plants reminded me of the book of Genesis that talks about the Garden of Eden. Yes, some lush place designed by the Creator, who put Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden to tend and to keep it. Adam and Eve were God's gardeners, there to tend the flowers, to tend the growth, to keep this place going and to enjoy it. But of course we know, as the story goes, the Garden of Eden was lost, and Adam and Eve fell from that exalted state of being. They were expelled from the Garden of Eden, and fell from that high place. And Eve was told that through conception and childbirth that she would bring forth new generations, or a new regeneration. That was the task then allotted to Eve. Through conception and childbirth, she would bring about a regeneration of things. And Adam was told that through his labors, his tilling of the earth, the tilling of the ground, and his partaking of the herb of the field all the days of his life, that would be his lot in life. So you could say God's gardeners were then just put in kind of a detention area of the physical plane. Not a detention area, but just an area where they had to work differently to redeem what had been lost through labor and birthing, to regain the lost exalted state. And that was going to apply not only to them, but to their children, and to their children's children, and their children's children's children, and to us. That we have become the beneficiaries, if you will, of this assigned task of producing offspring and the laboring on this earth to redeem and regain that lost exalted state. So it reminded me of that Joni Mitchell song, her Woodstock song. And we've got to get ourselves back to the garden. Yeah, we should learn to sing that song. That'd be so great. That'd be so great. Yeah, because it's true. We've got to get ourselves back to the garden. We need to get back into the garden, or maybe we need to get the garden back into us. Yeah, that would in a way make more sense, because we've got to get the garden back into us through this job of cultivating the chakra, the lotus blossoms that are within ourselves. That these are the way that we can regain that lost exalted state. That we can experience the Garden of Eden in ourselves through the cultivation of these chakras, which are really organs of perception. They are organs of perception that will allow us to see beyond the physical realm. They are supersensible organs of perception that allow us to see beyond the physical. So they are things that allow us to do that no scientific instrument will give us the capacity. No microscope, no telescope is going to be able to see the things that only the inborn, onboard technology that we have in the chakra system will give to us. And then, of course, the heavy use of pharmaceuticals in our society to try and manage all these things physically, emotionally, chemically, biologically. And then there's those that turn to the herb of the field, right? The herb of the field that God said to Adam, you have to go and till the ground and you'll partake of the herb of the field. And of course, we know how Bob Marley interpreted that. Yes, God said, thou shalt partake of the herb of the field. God said, let's not argue. Pass the chalice. But even there's a concern of overuse and dependency on these sorts of physical things that we're ingesting to try and maintain balance. And through the misuse or immoderation of any of these things, it can lead to an imbalance. And whenever there's imbalance, that's where evil can take place. Evil comes in when there's imbalance, just like a weed comes in when there's an imbalance in your soil. If you're missing stuff in your soil, then you get weeds coming in and attacking it. You get parasites coming in. You get a blight to your garden. And humans, and you can see that in the human domain when humans start acting like animals. Humans become dehumanized and they start to act like animals, or what sometimes is referred to as zombies. Zombieism. Which is why I keep handy a copy of Preparedness 101 for the zombie pandemic. That's right. The zombie pandemic. Preparedness 101. You can get I'm not kidding, you can get your own free copy downloaded from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Yeah. Preparing for the zombie pandemic. Because it's very real. You never know when your neighbor is going to turn into a zombie and come crashing through the door, announcing the beginning of the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
So that's all in here. Yep, I encourage you to go home. You know you can't borrow mine. You have to get your own. We're talking about the living dead here. People that are dead inwardly but somehow still alive. Not a good situation, and we're seeing the rise of that. Definitely. We want to see more of the living, not the living dead. We want to see living. So how do we get there? Well, we need a motive and a mode. A motive and a mode. So I did a little bit of research on this, some deep etymological research off of Wikipedia. And the word motive comes from the Latin motivus, which means to move. So when we're motivated, we move. We're living. We're not the walking dead. And so to move, we need some sort of apparatus, some sort of vehicle. So we know physically, if you're going to move, you have the apparatus of your legs, your feet, your limbs that will move you. And so what is the correlating thing to move spiritually? To be alive spiritually, what is the correlation to that? Well, we're back to the chakras again. The chakras are the apparatus that we use to move ourselves spiritually. And because they're like wings, these petals on the lotus blossoms are like wings that will move us through qualities of space. You could say astral space. When our chakras are alive and functioning, they're like wings that will move us forward. And then the motive. What is the motive to get up and get going spiritually? Well, it brings us to the great just because we can. Just because we can. That is the great motive. It's to fulfill this urge to grow and morph. To go through metamorphosis. Just the same way a caterpillar goes through a metamorphosis to become a butterfly. Or not. Free will, right? You don't have to go through metamorphosis if you don't want to. But you might want to because you can. It's the great just because we can that becomes this motivation to step into the new next nature. Your new next nature. Your new phase of growth. Or not. To become an astral butterfly. So, the chakras. The chakras are the mode of metamorphosis and movement. So, I'm going to take a moment to talk about the chakra systems. And I say systems because there's many different systems. This is a very old concept that can really be found in different forms in all spiritual systems. Most commonly we know it through what's come down through the Vedic traditions and through Hinduism and the Sanskrit texts and whatnot. Although you might have noticed on the Facebook event page I elected to put up a picture from ancient Egypt, because if you look at the iconography of ancient Egypt you can see things that are very chakra-like, flower-like, being used to connect as antennas or satellites to higher realms. So there's a 5 chakra system, there's a 6 chakra system, there's a 7 chakra system, there's a 12 chakra system, there's a 49 chakra system. There's all sorts of different systems. Some are older, some are newer, some have been kept secret. But the thing is, now we need to make that a household word. We need to bring stuff that has been kept secret for centuries and make it common knowledge, because we need it for our survival, we need it for our evolution, we need it for our metamorphosis, and we need it for a sound mind. Because our mental health, physical health, and spiritual health, and karmic health really rests very largely on the chakra system, because they are the mode of spiritual movement. But then there's what we as moderns with modern consciousness need to bring to it ourselves. And this is where we need to become scientists of the spirit and find out what our experience is with it. And that's the contrast between being dogmatic and being Gnostic. Dogmatic and Gnostic. Dogmatic means that it's a very fixed system that's imposed from the outside and you don't express anything different. Otherwise, worst case scenario, you might get your head cut off. Gnosticism means that it's something that's experiential. It's something that you experience inwardly, you gain knowledge through your own experience, and that you have freedom to express it and to modify it and to change it and discuss it. So we really need to be approaching these things more in a Gnostic way and try to avoid some of the dogmatism that's around yoga and discussion of the chakra system. But one thing to note is that there's the primary chakras and then there's secondary chakras. Right? So we have the 7 main ones, and then we have chakras in the palms, we have chakras in the soles of our feet, you've got chakras between your legs. You've got chakras wherever there's counter space. Counter space to the physical space is often a place where there's a chakra, because there's room for energy. There's a room for seed of energy, and that seed of energy can be engaged, it can be moved, and in time it could grow into a larger chakra, because, as I say, this is a path of metamorphosis. The human being is not the same as it was 9,000 years ago. Physically we weren't the same. In every way we weren't the same, which is one of the reasons why the system needs to evolve along with the humans. And recognizing these secondary chakras is important to work with, because they support the primary chakras. Like I do a meditation where I want to activate my proud chakra. So I activate these secondary chakras in my palms, and then I'll sit in meditation with this equilateral triangle, and you get a resonance. You can try that now if you want, just whoever wants to. You can create an equilateral triangle between the two palms. You can rub them like this, get them nice and amped up. You're amping up some of the electromagnetics, and you can even like slowly pull them apart and experience some of the force field. You might feel an attraction between your palms. You might feel them repelling. You can take them back together, take them apart. Just very slowly tune into that. Yeah. So you have those amped up, and now you turn your palms up, close your eyes, you put your awareness in your brow, and you try to get a sense of the three of them linking together. And that the palms are supporting the primary chakra of the third eye. So you may feel some tingling, just tuning into your subtle layers. Okay, so I'll leave you to explore that more on your own at home. Yes, you can try this at home alone. Shouldn't hurt yourself too badly. Be careful. But to show you how these secondary chakras are important to work with, because they're like secondary actors in the theater that support the primary actors. The primary actor would not be able to do what she or he does without secondary roles. Same as in a bouquet of flowers. You've got the main part of the bouquet, the roses, and then you have a little splash of other things that are there to surround and support the roses and make them look more beautiful. We've got chakras beneath the body, in the central column beneath the body. Very powerful chakras that work on a lower frequency. And I'm very much into working with those chakras and the ones above the head, which I'll talk about at some point. But the ones below are like the bass guitar in a band. Sometimes you think, oh, bass guitar, you know, you don't really need bass guitar. It's all about the lead guitar or the trumpet or the singer. But if you ever drop out the bass guitar, especially in, like with Bob Marley, you'd be like, whoa, it's like something just cut the balls off the music or whatever. Yeah, so you see how these other chakras really add to what's considered more up front and more central. So, yeah, the chakras below, they're like an anchorage to the earth that's sometimes referred to as the dragon, the domain of the dragon, where we have connection to very old primal energies that can protect us the way a dragon protects its den and its eggs. Whereas the chakras above, connecting us to higher frequencies and higher planes, not so much to the earth, but to the cosmos. Because we are like an antenna. The chakra stalk is like an antenna. A plant is like an antenna. The plant stands there between earth and the cosmos. The plant is an antenna connecting, well, we know it connects to the sun, but it also connects to Venus and Mars and Jupiter and Saturn, the whole solar system. And so do we. So that's why we want to be in touch with those chakras above the head, because it does connect us to the qualities of the planets and what they're beaming and radiating at us. And so they can work through us, and we can grow and metamorph into our next new nature. So, and doing that sort of thing, people work with colors and sounds. I'll talk about the bijas a little bit. Bija means a seed sound. It's just a little seed sound like lam, 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 vam, 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 ram, 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 yam, 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 ham, 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 om, om, om. And so out of those sounds, you get chants like Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. That's a Vedic chant to Shiva. And what's interesting to know is that each one of those sounds connects us to the quality of a different element. So the word Om, you're probably familiar, it's like the all-inclusive sound, the sound of creation, Om. But Na refers to the earth element, Ma refers to water element, Shi refers to the fire element, Va refers to the air element, and Ya refers to the ether element, the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So when you sing Om Namah Shivaya as a chant, you're actually invoking all the elements. So it's interesting to know that the chants are not made up after the name of gods, but the names of the gods were made up after the sound qualities of the elements. And this is very empowering as a scientist of the spirit when you start to see the palette that we have to work with here in nature. Sounds, colors, shapes, all the qualities found in nature we can reach into as if we were reaching to the gods. Because the gods are in nature, and we are still reaching to Shiva, we are still reaching to Shakti, reaching to Ra and Anubis through our chants and so forth. So when we sing chants devotionally, it's not just to send devotions to the gods, but it's to awaken the God within ourselves. Because we're not here just to be good humans. We're here to be good gods. As Jesus said, are you not gods? Wake up. Ring the bell. Do a chant. Wake up the God within yourself. With devotion. Working with colors. Those of you that are familiar with the chakras have probably heard about the use of colors. And pitches as well. I have these crystal singing bowls here to work with the chakras. But the colors is interesting because you'll see that there's different color systems. I have up on the wall here what we work with in the spiritual boot camp derived from the Jewel in the Lotus program. And they've got the shapes, which are called yantras, and you can sing a different mantra with each of them. But they have different colors. But they're not the colors of the rainbow, as you might have seen in other systems of working with chakras, where they assign the colors of the rainbow to the 7 chakras. It's kind of convenient. 7 colors in the rainbow, 7 chakras. Okay, so root, connected to the earth, and you've got orange for the second one, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. But that actually was only developed back in the 1930s by some people in the Theosophical Society. And it's different from this. And there's different color systems. So you go, well, what's right? What's correct? Well, this is the interesting thing about being a human and being a scientist of the spirit, is that you can work with different systems and bring them to the chakras to stimulate them. It's all about stimulating them. And sure, it's fine to work with the 7 colors of the rainbow because there's a consistency. There's a certain frequency for the orange, for the red, a different one for the orange, so they're in an order that would line up nicely with the chakras. Now you run into kind of someone who's dogmatic about it and they go, oh no, that's not 9,000 years old, so it's just New Age flake. But I believe that humans have the power to assign meaning and systems in application to ourselves, and if it works, then use it. We're changing the way we work all the time. So it's very liberating to realize that we don't have to be dogmatic about this. So we need to be not dogmatic, but not Gnostic about it. Because we're working in the fluid dimensionality. People will say, oh, where is the chakra? Is it in the solar plexus? Is it up here? Or is it down here? Well, in fact, they move around. Because they're in the subtle body, which is fluid. The etheric body has a quality that's water-like, and the astral body has a quality that is air-like. And we know how water and air move quite differently than physical matter. So when you start to put your attention inward on these other layers of our being, you're going to see things change, shift around. We're talking about the astral plane. So we don't want to come to the chakras with this finite, materialistic way of looking at things. It just will not work. It'd be like putting a square peg into a round hole. We need to actually not only be into spiritual science, I think I'm going to change it from spiritual science to spiritual science and artistry. Because, we want to bring scientific precision and mathematical exactness to our work, so we can work with the same kind of mindset that scientists would work with, but we also want to have that subjective side, not just the objective, but the subjective side that an artist brings to their work. So let me just touch on some of the psychic functions of the chakras, and then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and hear Laura talk about the psychological functions. But these psychic functions are very important because we've really been dumbed down psychically. We're not living up to our potential psychically, and it's hurting us in our mental health, and ultimately our physical health is causing sickness. And modern science is partly responsible for that. Modern science is giving us all sorts of information while sort of cutting us off and denying anything that's beyond the material, beyond the atomic level. But there's an ancient proverb, which I love. It says, people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. We're being destroyed for lack of the right knowledge. And so we need to get back the knowledge of our psychic capacities, such as clairvoyance. So what is clairvoyance? Clairvoyance is super sensible seeing. Super sensible. It's beyond the senses. It's beyond the eyes, the ears, the nose, the smelling, and the tasting. And with clairvoyance, you can see auras. You've all heard of an aura? An aura is the light around the body. It's not only around the body, but it's in the body too. But when you're looking at someone, you'll see how the body of light extends beyond the physical parameters or perimeter, and that's the aura. And the colors of the aura depends on how the astral body is sitting in the etheric body, in the life body. And someone who's clairvoyant or has this capacity for psychic seeing will be able to see the aura and the colors. So for example, if someone has much sensual desire Their desire, their passion is really towards things of the earth, and this is not, there's nothing judgmental about this. We all have sensual desires towards the earth. Then the aura will have a dark red light that's radiating out beyond the physical body. So red is connected to sensual desire, which is no surprise why they have red light districts. It's not a yellow light district or a green light district, it's the red light district, because red is connected to sensual desire, and that's what you'll see in the aura. Now for someone whose desire or aspiration is turned more towards spiritual things, more towards cosmic things, less on the earthly, then their aura will radiate purple hues. So purple's considered more connected to spiritual thoughts. And of course we have the system with the 7 colors. The red is connected to the root chakra, and the crown is considered to be purple, and which would also explain why purple is the color of royalty. For example, the queen, when she wears her cloak, it's purple. Purple is often used in things connected to the monarchy or to the priesthood. And then someone who has sharply defined concepts within their mind, within their soul, someone who's like a logical thinker, then there'll be a yellowish form within their aura with very distinct outlines, because that's the kind of thoughts that the person is carrying. So it's got this yellow, sharply defined forms that you'll see. Whereas someone who has muddled thoughts and a confused mind, the aura will be more, less defined and more amorphous, and less vibrant colors, less defined colors to it, because it's kind of a hodgepodge. And then someone who's opinionated and has very inflexible thought forms, that intolerance, they'll have forms in their aura that is fixed and rigid and very sharp edges. And someone who has thoughts that are open and concerning other people, that are thinking beyond themselves, the forms and the rays will be more alive and moving and more mercurial in nature. So how is it that someone becomes clairvoyant? How is it that you could see an aura? What is the capacity? I think you all know what the answer is going to be. The chakras. Or as they say sometimes, the chakras. These are the organs of perception that allows people to see supersensibly. And a lot of the knowledge I'm bringing around the psychic capacity is from this book by Rudolf Steiner called How to Know Higher Worlds. He speaks in detail about the psychic capacities. And it's very interesting about the chakras being like lotus flowers, because they actually have petals. They actually have petals. So for example, the larynx chakra has 16 petals. But he says half of them are already developed. They were already developed in the distant past, in a long, long time ago. And you are the beneficiary of that. That chakra has already the 8 of its petals completely developed, and you contributed nothing to the development. It's a gift of nature that was developed when human consciousness was much more dreamlike. But as we have evolved intelligence and our capacity to think and have more ego awareness, those initial 8 petals became dimmed down and less active. And you could say they were kind of put under shrink wrap, waiting for us to come along and then to develop the other 8 out of our own accord, through our own practices, through our own willingness and deliberateness to develop the other 8. And that when we start to do the practices that will activate them, then the first 8 will then have the shrink wrap taken off and come into being, come into activity. So that's a really interesting thing to play with, and we'll get into that a bit more in a second here about what that looks like. But just to look a bit at the chakras and their psychic powers, we've got third eye chakra, which has 2 petals. And you might think, well, that's the psychic chakra. Yeah, 2. That it's, people equate, the third eye chakra with psychic powers, which are known as siddhis in the Sanskrit, S-I-D-D-H-I-S. And it is an important chakra for our psychic powers. It's in the meditation school that I've been with, Clear Vision, they call it the vital switch. And that's very important to get this one activated early on in your development, because when this gets activated, then other things can come online more easily. But then there's this larynx chakra that has 16 petals, and when this becomes active, it actually allows you to see into the thoughts of other people, which is why we really want to follow the 3-to-1 rule that Rudolf Steiner talks about in this book. Is that for every 1 step we make in developing our powers, our psychic powers, we want to develop 3 steps in our ethical and moral development. Because when you develop the power to read other people's minds, you can abuse that. And people do that. And it's unethical, and it's just plain bad karma. So, but that's one of the capacities that we gain, and that can be used for good as well, to have an understanding of what's going on in other people's minds, the thoughts, the thinking. It also gives us the capacity to look deeply into nature. He says it gives us deep insight into the true source of natural phenomenon and the spiritual laws and principles behind nature, which I really enjoy. I've worked in developing my chakras by meditating on nature, being out in the woods and allowing nature to reveal its secrets to me as my chakras open to nature. And when this chakra is active, it perceives these things in terms of forms. Forms become the language of this chakra. And the forms are not like fixed forms, but they're actually moving, they're mobile, sort of the kind of thing you would see on psychoactive substances, such as ayahuasca. Now the heart chakra has 12 petals. 6 of them were developed in the distant past, and now it's up to us to develop the other 6. And when you do, it opens your clairvoyant cognition into the character of other souls. You can see the character and the disposition and have profound insight into the state of mind of humans and animals. Because animals have a soul, they have an astral body. So it makes me think of animal whisperers that can connect and communicate with animals and see deeply into what's going on. Are they angry? Are they going to attack me? Are they going to bite me? The heart chakra gives you that capacity, and it perceives in terms of temperature. That's the language of the heart chakra and its psychic capacity. It can perceive spiritual warmth and coldness. And so it'll feel warmth and coldness streaming from the forms or figures that the larynx chakra can perceive. Here we perceive forms, and here we perceive through temperature, spiritual temperature. And because everything that's growing and maturing has a sense of warmth about it, and things that are dying have a sense of soul coldness. So we're not talking about physical temperature, we're really talking on another level. And the heart has the capacity to read that. And then the 10-petaled chakra of the solar plexus, it gives us insight into the abilities and talents of other beings and the role that their gifts are to play in life. And its language is through light and color. So we get these three chakras working. We perceive forms, we perceive qualities of temperature, and we perceive color and light with this third chakra. And he says this solar plexus requires particular care in development of the subtle nature, especially at early stages, because here we have unconscious memories stored. These chakras are like storage disks, and there's a lot of unconscious material that's down in the belly. And what happens is that we take in information through our senses unconsciously, and it will activate, it'll start to play off of these unconscious memories when this chakra becomes activated, and that can cause confusion. So we have to learn how to master how impressions come in and activate our memories and whatnot. And he gives some interesting examples in the book. I haven't got time to go into that. But the long and short of it is that he says we need a kind of soul armor where we can mediate sense impressions, and that we're not just flooded by things in a random and semi-conscious way, especially when this chakra becomes activated. And if we do that, then the chakra can mature properly. Then he talks about the six-petaled chakra in the sacral area, and this is even more difficult to develop. There's even more challenges around that. As you can imagine, we're talking about the sexual chakra. And he says, to do this right, it requires complete mastery over your whole being, body, soul, and spirit.
Give me a week.
Yeah, give you a week. Yeah. Because, you know, the physical body has its needs and its inclinations, and it has to be nurtured in the right way. The same with the soul. You know, our feeling life, our personal life, we have passions and whatnot. And then our spiritual life with ideas and aspirations and so forth, they all can be pulling in different directions. And so they have to be brought into harmony and accord. And I was thinking to myself, oh, it must have been so much easier in the days where you just could be a monk. You know, sign me up, you know, then just follow the rules, you know. I'll do the dogma, you know, I don't have to deal with my passions and my soul life and all this spiritual stuff. It's all a nice tidy package there in the monastery. But so, no, we have to find it in the world now. The world is the temple, it's the monastery, and so we have to learn how to ennoble our physical body and nurture it in the right way, so that our physical nature doesn't take us in directions that don't serve our soul and spiritual development. Right? Because the physical body is meant to serve the soul and spiritual development. And then likewise, he says the spirit, our spiritual nature, our spiritual life, should not rule over the body and the soul in a heavy-handed and dogmatic way either. Like some sort of slave driver. You know, thou shalt not masturbate, you know, don't touch yourself there, all these things, you know, like that would not serve either. So, and so when we bring this chakra online, the psychic power is actually to perceive beings beyond the physical plane, autonomous spiritual beings that belong to a world different than this. So how interesting that is, that your sacral chakra really is going to be that thing to step up and connect with other beings that are beyond the physical senses. So, yeah, in higher worlds he gives all sorts of practices to follow that will help you to develop your chakras in a healthy and balanced way. And he warns against false or easier methods of doing this, because there are, of course, shortcuts to anything, ways to get it quicker, faster, easier, but he he advises against these things because they can lead to destruction of your physical body and your moral and mental health. And yeah, if our chakras are not healthy, we're not going to be healthy. And if we try to develop ourselves without sound exercises, we'll end up entering other realms with defective vision, like defective eyes. We will not see correctly, and then we'll be subject to deceptions and illusions, and that this may lead to lose our ability to distinguish truth from error, and we may in fact lose our direction in life, lose our sense of direction in life. And in worst case scenario, he says you can become a puppeted plaything of malicious beings. A puppeted plaything of malicious beings. You've lost your way, you've lost your ability to discern truth from error. You're subject to deceptions and illusions because you tried to take the shortcut. And people's personalities can change. Even quite dramatically, people may become fearful, jealous, conceited and arrogant, willful. This happened to me. I when I turned 20, I wanted to be like Superman spiritually, and started just dabbling. Didn't have a teacher, didn't have good practices, just, oh, let's tweak this. What's this button do? Oh, what happens if I open this door? Oh, this looks interesting. Let's just play with this, and you do it all at once, right? Very quickly, it's like, oh yeah, I want to get there. And messed me up for a few years. I became very fearful. I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't look at anybody in the face without like going beet red. Yeah, there was arrogance there, and all sorts of things. My personality went through quite an upheaval, and it took me a while to make myself the man I am here today. Yeah. But sometimes you have to go down into the rabbit's warren to find your way back to fresh air. So he does talk, I'll just finish off this thing, he speaks of atavistic clairvoyance. Atavistic clairvoyance. We don't want atavistic clairvoyance. Atavistic clairvoyance is when we do practices that reactivate those first half of the chakras that were developed in the distant past. Right? They were fully developed and were used in a time when we were all naturally clairvoyant. There was a time when humans didn't have this intellect and this ego consciousness that we have now, and we lived in this dreamy, kind of duller state of mind that had this clairvoyant connection to nature. We could see into the souls of each other and connected to the gods. And this is where a lot of our mythology and stuff comes from, is they were connected actually to the gods and the spiritual world. But we had to let go of that to develop the sense of the self, the ego awareness, the I am, and the capacity to think for yourself as an individual. We had to let go of this clairvoyance that connected us to everything, and to learn to separate out. So we have this intellect now, we have this self-awareness, but now we need to get the clairvoyance back to reconnect with the spiritual world, right? Yeah, to be in connection with the spiritual powers that are there and to use them. And so people who take a shortcut or tweak around like I did, it activates the old clairvoyance. So you'll have clairvoyance, but you won't have been initiated, you won't have developed the other powers to be able to handle it. So you'll see things, but it's like this idea of the eccentric psychic. Kind of the idea of the eccentric psychic, who's like psychic, but they're like all over the place, right? Because to be clairvoyant, you do connect to the periphery and you draw things in. So you're eccentric. Eccentric means out of center. And so our work needs to also build up our center. The ego center, the capital E, ego center, the spirit self. And so that we have a strong center and we can go out to the periphery and get visions and bring them back to the center and not be the eccentric, out of center psychic who can see all sorts of things but couldn't drive a car to save her life. Or do dishes or clean her house. I've met people like that. You probably have too. So the atavistic clairvoyance is, activating those, the first half of the chakras that are there without properly activating the petals. Activating the ancient petals without properly working on the new petals. And this can lead to things like Kundalini sickness, Kundalini syndrome, and so forth. There's also people that like to hang out in certain chakras. They just kind of, they got their favorite chakra and they just like to hang out. It's like people that are like, I love to be up in the upper chakras. It's like, hello? Anybody home? And they're just up there, they're like just juicing on something up there, like some juicy thought, some sort of vision, and it's like, woo, yeah. And then there's people like to hang out in the lower chakras. It's like, yeah, it's good to know. What you doing? It just kind of becomes their MO, their modus operandi. But it's out of balance, and we know when you're out of balance, that's when evil can happen. So it can lead to addictions. You can become slaves to these things. You can become a puppeted plaything to malicious beings. So we don't want to just hang out, in our favorite chakra. We want to be able to explore them all. And I think we need to get chakra clinics here in town, like where people can go get a chakra checkup to have someone scan them. Let's take half of the nail bars in Toronto and turn them into chakra clinics. And you go in there and, you need a little tune up there on your navel chakra. Let me help you. But in fact, there is people working along those lines in the realm of energy psychology. It's a new field. That's one of the terms, energy psychology, where they combine a lot of fields together. Chakra knowledge, working with the meridians, doing work on the subtle bodies, and this is all combined with knowledge around mental health. How to support people's mental health. That's why it's psychology, energy psychology. And the chakras really are a great map for healing. I'm just going to close with this. They're like a map that gives us a formula for wholeness. If we learn to work with the chakras one at a time, individually, as Laura will speak to in a moment, then it becomes a template for transformation, a template for metamorphosis. And they really do describe the soul's architecture. They're like the architecture of the soul, the same way the bones and the muscles and the organs are the architecture of the physical body. So we need to really become more knowledgeable about this quite quickly. I'm glad you're here tonight, investing your time in this knowledge so that you can get up to speed, you can help others get up to speed, you can learn to go through metamorphosis, you can go from being a liability to more of an asset as you mature these chakras, the Garden of Eden within yourself, and you won't have to be worrying about being a participant in the zombie pandemic apocalypse. Thank you. All right.
So we're going to look more at the psychology of the 7 main chakras in the body. This is what's kind of mostly agreed upon within all theories and different lineages, although there's still some discrepancies between numbers and locations. I've written some of this on the board, some of it that can be packaged kind of nicely into little, a one-worded answer. This is very, very basic to think that there's one word that can describe the central issue of, your navel chakra. We're talking about something that's organic, that's alive, that's moving in an astral space. To put it into a linear, analytical box and form is a little bit challenging. So we're going to move through this gracefully and respectfully, knowing that there's a lot of wiggle room around all of this. There's always exceptions to commonalities, and I want to hold that in a respectful tone. So we're really looking at general, there's always exceptions. Okay? So, when we get into the central issues of these 7 chakras, the first chakra, the central issue that we're looking at is survival, groundedness. Okay? Sexuality and emotions, that's a central issue of the second chakra. Then we go into the will and the power of the third chakra. Love and relationships for the fourth, for the heart center. Communication, expression, purification, this is all residing in the fifth chakra. Our sixth, the brow, this is intuition, imagination, and wisdom. And the seventh, the crown chakra, this is awareness, purity, and light of life. So what are some of the things that are a counterforce to the chakras? This is pretty interesting. I like to know what a counterforce to my evolution and to my natural state is. So let's look at this chakra by chakra again. So a demon, or a counterforce to the first chakra, we're looking at fear. This is something that threatens our survival, prevents us from feeling secure. We often become hyper-vigilant. So we're looking at the psychology of the demon that prevents us from fully experiencing our first chakra, predominantly fear. If we move to the second chakra, we have guilt. This undermines the natural flow of emotionality and sexuality in our system. And in fact, we often inhibit what we access in our sexuality for fear of activating some unconscious emotional issue. And I most definitely am working through that these days with the boot camp. I am determined to work through this so that I can access my sexuality to its fullest potential and to feel that and live from that place, that centered place with my sexuality. And then there's the shame, something that I'm sure we all experience more than we'd like to. This shame that undermines our self-esteem, our sense of personal power, and really constricts spontaneous activities of joy and really turns that and collapses that inwards on itself. So we see things like vanity and control. And I love this image. It talks about the ego believing it is in control, very much like an ant on a log racing down white water rapids, thinking it's steering. That's kind of what's happening with our ego at our navel. We think we're in control of something, and yet we're on something being led by it. And you have to have a little bit of that in order to go through this, a little bit of extra kid gloves to really be willing to look in all of these dark aspects and shadow that's looking for the light within us. So that takes us to the heart. This center, its demon is grief. I'm sure we've all experienced that to some extent. As Jesse was saying, that heartache. It's like, oh my. And how that contradicts, this sense of grief really contradicts the lightness and the love and the expansion that the heart has the capacity for. And then we get to lies at the 5th chakra, the throat, the antithesis to communication and truth, where we start to twist our relationship to the outside world. And then the 6th, the brow. This is all about illusion. Not surprising that the capacities inside at this chakra have a visual, our 3rd eye is a kind of remnant of an old eye. No surprise that it's all about illusion at the 3rd eye. Where we have a fixated attention, and this really keeps us from seeing accurately. And then lastly, of the 7, attachment, the demon. This really obscures our realization, this sense of wanting to realize something. And we can have a twisted connection with cosmic consciousness, to source. So I've written some of those words into the chart, but you'll have to continue to fill it out on your own. And I do encourage you to make a chart or keep a chart of this. If not right now, afterwards, make a chart of all of the information. So you can see in front of you, the words and the feelings of what resonates and what doesn't. So you can continue your own assessment, and we'll get into that a little bit later. We look at excessive and deficient characteristics of the chakras. So what's that about? Well, something stressful comes along, a negative experience, a trauma, and we as human spiritual beings generally have a tendency to either kind of contract, withdraw, and avoid, or to overcompensate for this stress. This is generally speaking, but it seems to work in my life. I'm like, yep, there I was contracting. Oh, yep, there I am avoiding. So they're coping strategies. They're coping strategies. Something's out of center, and we're coping with the fact that it's out of center. So, generally speaking, when we have excessive characteristics in a chakra, that's the overcompensating, and there's an increasing of energy at that area. So, naturally, it needs to release that energy. And, of course, the opposite, the deficient characteristics, where we're avoiding and really contracting from a situation. We develop deficiencies, and this is seen in a decreasing of our energy, and so naturally we need to receive energy. So it's interesting how if we have center, there's excessive, which needs to get rid of energy, and deficient characteristics of certain chakras that need to receive energy. I like this system. This is a pretty cool system. This is nature's best divine language. So I like to think in my logical analyticalness, like, all right, so let's just take some of that and put it over there. Well, actually that is a lot of what needs to happen. Reallocating the distribution of energy throughout our system. So let us look into each of the chakras from their deficient and excessive characteristics from a psychological perspective. So starting with the root again, we have, when we're overcompensating, there's a sense of heaviness, sluggish. We have a robot mentality, very one-dimensional and linear. And we assume that the past will predict the future. This is something that I work at on probably a monthly basis. That concept of the past predicting the future. And that, in fact, it doesn't. And I'm often up against my own bozo-ness around this. Thank goodness we've cultivated humor. Because there's no other way that I could deal with that again. Not being able to perceive that which is coming towards me out of the future accurately. That's really what's going on there in the root chakra. So some other characteristics. It might look like materialism or greed, addiction to security, and quite rigid boundaries. So excessive characteristics of the second chakra, the sacral chakra. As we know, this one's the fluid. This is associated with water. So excessive fluidity, let's say, it would be over-emotional, have very poor boundaries, and kind of allowing the water to go everywhere, which water will do if it doesn't have a strict container. Sexual addiction, obsessive attachments, and they're all about pleasure with no pain. That's the go-to, the MO of this excessive second chakra. So constantly seeking this pleasure and chasing ecstasy. And then we get into the third chakra, and the sexuality isn't over. It's actually using our control and power to dominate others, predominantly sexually. And this is seen through, well, unfortunately, very dark sex magic. So dominating, manipulative, having things like temper tantrums, common of an excessive third chakra. Can be quite violent, has a lot of repressed anger. And I was shocked after reading all of that to hear that this is the type A personality. I was like, oh, this is close to home. Type A, all right, got it on my list. I'm working on it. The fourth chakra, the heart, well, what do we think about that? It's probably a lot of codependency and clinging on to others, searching for the fix outside. This is, interestingly enough, overly sacrificing. This sense of kind of this black and white, and you must make a very statement about something with yourself. Can be quite jealous and possessive. And the fifth chakra, the throat, no surprise, it's about excessive talking. One that I know quite well growing up. I am also working on that. And now I'm feeding myself with things that are actually necessary to talk about. Not just random, gossiping or wanting to talk for the sake of talking, overextending yourself, and not having the ability to listen to others. Thankfully, I had that ability to listen, but still, over talking. I'm a sanguine, what can I say? And then we go up to the sixth chakra at the brow, the third eye. This is about headaches, nightmares, excessive characteristics, hallucinations, delusions, difficulty concentrating. And as Jesse said with the upper chakras, they start to neglect life down here, like cleaning your toilet and cutting your toenails, that kind of stuff. And then the last of the seven, our crown, over-intellectual. Again, something I'm working through.
Quite a to-do list.
I do, and soon you will too. Just wait till the end. We all will have quite a to-do list.
I'm really bored. I need something to do.
Well, fear no longer. I'm here. Spiritual addiction. Ooh, I see that one quite a bit. People like to be up here talking about these really nifty concepts, and it has really nothing to do, it hasn't dropped down into the physical plane yet. Disassociation from body. Yeah, they're up there. Overexcitement. Occasionally that happens, okay.
No comment.
I'm starting to get an idea of my chakras. Yes. And now for the deficient characteristics. Quite different. This is where we're withholding and avoiding situations and decreasing our energy. So we go back to the root. We have predominantly fear of death, unwilling to take risks, lack of discipline, underweight, disconnection from the body. Isn't that interesting? A deficiency in the root has a disassociation from the body, just as an excessiveness in the crown. My spiritual addiction and over-intellectual abilities are like kicking in right now. But we'll just leave it there. So then we go to the second chakra. We have things like rigidity in the body and attitudes, emotional numbness, and like the excessiveness of the second chakra, so the fact that we seek pleasure with no pain, when there's a deficiency in the second chakra, we're seeking only pain but no pleasure. I have actually had both of those. And that's interesting to note, that it's not about finding just, go through your chakras and see, yes, I'm deficient in my second chakra. Now I figured it out. I have my second chakra. I understand it, Actually, you still might be excessive in that chakra. So we can have both a deficient characteristic and an excessive characteristic at the same time. So, for instance, I could be overly emotional and yet sexually constricted. I see that quite a bit, actually. Not understanding how to bring out one's sexuality. Bit more about the second chakra and its deficiencies. They have excessive boundaries. They have poor social skills. And a lot of doubt. Then we move to the weak will. Move to the will center, the third center, the navel, solar plexus. And here we're looking at poor self-esteem, extremely fearful, easily manipulated, poor digestion, attracted to stimulants. And this next one, they have a victim mentality. So, blaming others, unreliable. And I'll go back, the victim blaming. This is very interesting. If you look at the third chakra from the excessive perspective, it is all about dominating others sexually. Okay? Then we look at it from the deficient perspective, and it's about being dominated sexually. We have a match. And Enneagram Judith says they will find each other. Those two types will find each other. The aggressive and the victim. Yeah. So we can start to look at this. What is my responsibility around this whole issue of sexuality? Where am I deficient, and how have I let that lead me? Maybe astray, off center. Yeah, the deficiencies in the third chakra, it's all about wanting approval from others and really doing whatever it takes to get that approval. I am so guilty of that. Then we move to the heart chakra. This is sad. A lot of sadness. Pretty antisocial. Lonely. Isolated. Lack of empathy. Very critical. Ooh. Then the fifth, back to the throat. Larynx. No surprise, a fear of speaking. Poor rhythm. I found that very interesting. Rhythm originating in the larynx. I liked that. Still shyness. And they kind of like talk like this with really mean voices. And it's like, I don't want to be heard, but I kind of want to participate. Small voices. Meek voices. And then we're up to the brow. This is a lot about memory. Poor memory, poor dream recall, insensitivities, and difficulty seeing into the future. For me, that really connects. It's kind of back to my root chakra issue of difficulty believing that the past doesn't predict the future. For me, that's kind of in the same vein. Like, I'm unable to see that which is coming towards me out of the future. Lack of imagination, difficulty visualizing, and then we get back up to the seventh chakra, the crown chakra. This is where learning difficulties can originate. Spiritual skepticism. I see a lot of that as well. Well, actually, it's just things that are outside of the dogmatic mindset is what I see. It's not necessarily spiritual skepticism. It's skepticism anything outside of a kind of fixed and closed boundary belief system. And that's it. It's limited beliefs. Materialism. Another interesting one. We have materialism in the crown and the root. Another interesting correlation between our extreme body chakras. And that can manifest as greed and domination in others, which kind of correlates with what Jesse was saying about the psychic functions of these chakras. When they're out of balance, we have the ability to perform unethical magic. So, so that's all really, kind of heavy and gloomy, because it's like, yeah, I have that, I have that, I have that, I have, okay, like, show me some light. This is a little bit depressing. All right, we'll go there. So what do they look like when they're balanced? Yay! Finally, a balanced chakra. What the heck? It took a lot to get here, I know. We're going through the trenches. Well, going back to the first chakra. The root. We are rooting in good health. So we're well grounded. We're comfortable in our body. We have a sense of trust in the world. Feeling of safety and security. Feel as though we're in the right livelihood. And there's a strong connection to our third chakra and our crown chakra.
Third eye or third chakra?
Sorry, third eye, thank you. Third eye. So sixth and seventh chakra. Thank you. And then the second chakra, back to the water. So it's about fluidity, graceful movements, sexual intelligence. I came up with that myself. Oh. Yeah, sexual intelligence. People talk about emotional intelligence. Like, let's talk about sexual intelligence.
Sexual IQ?
Yeah.
Oh. Is there somewhere we can do a test?
I'll see about making an assessment.
Oh, okay. We'll make an appointment.
So yeah, it's all about nurturance, ability to change, another big one of mine, which I think is still wrapped up with, the past predicting the future. It's like really being able to change, to see that the future is new in of itself and has probably nothing to do with the past. Unless I'm totally bozoing out, and then it is probably the same issue being, repeating itself. I love this this quote. If you want to access all of your sexual potential, you have to deal with the unresolved emotional issues. It's God's little joke. Like, damn. Damn, you want the goods, you gotta go through it. Go through all the emotions to get to them. Like, oh, touche. So then we go to our will center, let's say, our third chakra, the navel. This is about reliability, effective will, good self-esteem. You have a balanced ego, warmth, a lot of personality, confidence, playfulness, and a sense of humor. This is something that we have actually cultivated quite a bit together, and to help buffer all of these other things that we're dealing with in our bozoness. Sense of humor, thank goodness. And then the fourth chakra. Ooh, love. All about balance. And what's balance but really centeredness? And what's centeredness? Well, at the psychology of the heart, that's really empathy. What's empathy? That's really mastering antipathy and sympathy. What's that? That's really about mastering that which you don't like and that which you like, so that you can move from a higher perspective that actually loves it all. Quite peaceful, good immune system. And I love this. The pulse of the universe and the pulse of humanity can be felt in the heart. It's like, oh, doesn't that just move your heart? It's like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
Can you see it again?
The pulse of the universe and the pulse of humanity can be felt in the heart. Yeah. Yeah. Which, no surprise, our relationship to time changes. The more we come in tune with the pulse of humanity and the pulse of the universe, the more our time, our own internal clock, changes to a more centered time. Whoa, I love that. I have to not nerd out in like my over spiritualizing love of it.
Go ahead.
Well, no, I'm staying balanced. Nice try. Good test.
He wants to know what it means.
Yeah, what does that mean?
What does
Time
what
in
mean?
relation to yourself?
Well, as the heart being the center of centers, so we carry our own center and we carry the universe's center, really, in us, as we carry, the will of the universe in our will. We come into, let's say, centeredness with nature, with the cosmos, with the universe. So our timing changes because we're no longer bozoing out on our own timing.
You mean we're syncing up with the universe, that
Possibly.
how things unroll, and we're synced up to that.
Yeah.
Sink or sink?
That was good.
I'd like to sing. So then the fifth chakra. It's all about clear communication. And what's clear communication if not being a good listener? This is something we get into with the spiritual boot camp as well. How to mirror, how to reflect, how to listen to what is coming towards you without putting those things that is the future predicting the present into the space. So how to really hear in the moment, in the space. And they really are about fulfilling humanity in a sense. That's what that balanced chakra looks like, is living creatively with the call of your spiritual connection. So we're starting, you can tell by the descriptions, we're starting to get into the spiritualized chakras within our body. And then we go to the 6th, the brow, even closer to spirit, that is. And this is where our intuitive and our perceptive imagination lies. So we have things like good memory recall, good dream recall. We can think symbolically. Ooh, I love that. Think metaphorically. It's like, ooh, that's like candy to be able to do that. We can visualize. And we've really turned on what Jewel and the Lotus would call our witness consciousness. We have turned on the ability to become slightly detached, like a detached observer, watching ourselves go through whatever we're going through. And this helps, similar to a balanced heart, where we can really see what's happening accurately and come into centeredness with it. And lastly, a balanced crown is about knowledge and consciousness. The ability to perceive, analyze, and assimilate information. Quite intelligent, very thoughtful, caring, very open-minded, and willing to ask questions. And beyond that, there's wisdom and mastery of their spiritual connection. So those are the balance characteristics. Now, this evening, we will finish with a fun exercise. But before that, I want to encourage you to make an assessment of your chakras over the next week. You know, while this information is fresh, what you have written down, what's resonated, on a piece of paper. And you can list, you know, all the chakras 1 through 7 along the side. And up at the top, you can list the issues you have with that chakra, your strengths of that chakra, very important, your deficient characteristics, and your excessive characteristics. And you can start to plug in to this chart your own organic, natural, where you are in your system information. So you can start to understand, for me, right, I over-intellectualize something in my upper chakras. But my strength of that is that I'm highly intuitive. So you can start to look at your strengths and, let's say, your weaknesses, and be able to apply your strengths to a weakness of another chakra. This is huge. I mean, when I did my assessment, I didn't have issues with every chakra in its deficient or excessive characteristics. I was like, whoa. I mean, going through all of that, I thought, well, yeah, that's me. Like, I have a lot of that. And then I did my assessment, and it was like, oh, you mean I don't have a deficiency at this exact moment of, let's say, my 6th chakra or my 5th, it doesn't really matter, but that I realized that I was somewhere else. So this is huge to get an assessment of where you are. This is one way. There's lots of fun ways. But this is one way where we can see our strengths and our weakness. And like Robin Hood, who stole from the rich to give to the poor, we can use some of this excessive energy to build up some of our deficient characteristic chakras. Yeah. So let's all be like Robin Hood, looking for those chakras.
Robin the Hood.
Yeah.
Build ourselves up.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much, Laura Story.
All right. Woo.
In the house. Yeah.
Juicy stuff.
Yeah, we should just mention one of the books derived from is this book, Eastern Body, Western Mind. by Anna Dave Judith, who is a Westerner, considered one of the foremost authorities on the chakras. These books, fairly new in the last 15, 20 years. And she's got a number of books, but this one is considered the main one regarding the psychological functions of the different chakras. It's, as you can see, got lots in it. It doesn't include everything. She mentions there's chakras outside of the body and more than the main 7, but she doesn't go into them, which would have been nice. She also lifts this kind of out of the whole context from which it grew, which is the Vedic traditions, which includes that of karma and reincarnation. So she never mentions that, that some of what we carry in our chakras has to do with our karma. And that's an important structure to put around this assessment of your psychology, to consider it's from, these things are from a larger trajectory in our personal spiritual evolution. Largely because it's very encouraging to know that the work you do on yourself now, it's not just for the next few years, but it's really forever. And it's planting seeds that will be carried into the future and will bloom. The work you do on your chakras now, they may not come into full bloom and full balance, but in the next life, and the next life, and the next life. Equally, if you do damaging things to your subtle bodies and your chakras, you can't kill a chakra, but you can do damage. It's not irreparable, but it sometimes can take lifetimes to recover from the lifestyle things we do that rupture them and cause them to close and so forth.
And it even extends to the developmental stages. I mean, there's so many beautiful things to unpack around chakras, and unfortunately we have a little bit limited time. But there are developmental stages as we develop in our psychology as human beings. So what's happening around you while you're in the womb? That's pretty big. What's happening around you when you're, 12 to 24 months? That's also going to influence. So there is an inheriting, in a sense, of what the familial dynamics are, the cultural, political, environmental, like pollutions and such, that will affect, in addition to karma and the rest of our own just regular bozo-ness, that we need to overcome and transform. So getting a sense of that, that's also quite a beautiful journey just in of itself, is your psychological development from the womb to now.
Around the heart, because you received a lot of information tonight, and we don't want to leave you in your head. We want to leave in the heart. But yeah, I really want to thank you all for coming out and being a part of this. And I want to finish off with going to a sacred center. People are looking for sacred centers. Your heart is the ultimate sacred center. We're talking about the mystical, etheric heart. We're not just talking about your physical heart, which physical heart, by the way, is not a pump, as science would have us think.
Right.
But we are not talking about physical heart anyways. We're talking about the etheric heart, the mystical heart. And so I'm going to guide you in a little meditation. Before I do that, I'm actually going to read a quote from Rudolf Steiner, who talks about love and anger. For the spiritual scientist, anger is the bringer of something quite important. Life shows us that a person who is unable to flare up with anger at injustice or folly will never develop true kindness and love. Equally, a person who educates himself through noble anger will have a heart abounding in love, and through love will do good. Love and kindness are the byproduct of noble anger. Anger that is overcome and purified will be transformed into the love that is its counterpart. A loving hand is seldom one that has never been clenched in response to injustice or folly. Anger and love are complementary. Transmuted anger is love in action. That is what we learn from this reality. Anger in moderation has the mission of leading human beings to love, so we can call it the teacher of love. Putting your awareness in your heart, the sacred center of centers, which holds the balance. It holds the balance of all the chakras. But it also needs to be cared and carried by these other chakras, the surrounding players. So we need to give careful attention to our heart, that it maintains balance, and that it receives the love that it deserves and needs. We seek love because it opens the heart center, and it makes us feel centered. We seek love to feel satisfied. And we know we're only satisfied when we're giving love from the heart. We seek love to feel secure. But we know in the depths, there's no security in earthly love, only in divine love. So we want to turn our heart chakra up to divine love. First and foremost, feel within your heart the three great verities of hope and faith and love. We can feel hope in the future, faith in the present, and love for it all. We can cleanse our temple in this way and open the doors of our heart, allowing divine essence to enter and live through us as radiant beingness.